Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Metaphysical Universe, where we dive deep into all things spiritual and metaphysical. And so today I'm going to talk about belief and faith, and not in the religious sense, but faith and belief in relationship to the development of your psychic abilities, your energetic senses. And, so many people don't really take into consideration this really important element. And I didn't really understand this important element until I went through it myself. You see, there was a point back in my own spiritual development when I actually lost my faith. And again, not the faith in the religious sense, but, or maybe in a deeper religious sense, I don't know, in a spiritual sense. I lost my faith and my belief in all things spiritual, in all things metaphysical. I didn't have that relationship with it anymore. But this was a huge change for me because originally I was very into all these things. I had a lot of spiritual experiences. I experienced a lot of like metaphysical phenomena. I did astral projecting. I did a lot of meditating. And yeah, I was definitely having not just those kinds of experiences, but I was like walking the talk. I was in that reality. And it was interesting too, because I the whole trigger for losing my faith and my belief was actually through an astral projection. I had had an astral projection where I was climbing up the face of this giant cliff, and I mean I mean, like, no cliff exists like that size, kind of size. And as I'm climbing up this cliff, like, I have an awareness, a knowingness that there are these spiritual beings at the top of this cliff, and that they're all discussing like the mysteries of the universe, right? And so I'm getting really excited to get up to that point where I will know like all the answers to the universe and all the things that I've ever wondered, right? And so as I'm getting up there and I'm just starting to peer over the edge, they see me, right? They see me there. And they're like, nope, you're not supposed to be here. You are here early. You actually need to go back down and rebuild your foundation. And I'm like, I had no idea what they were talking about, but they booted me off the face of that cliff top, wherever they were. And nothing happened right away. I just left with like this message of rebuild your foundation, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means. That I have no understanding. But after a little bit of time, I started becoming disconnected from my spiritual beliefs, my faith and all those things. And yeah, I felt really lost. And so what happened is I actually got very into the science realm of things. And I guess yeah, I lost my relationship with it all, with all the spiritual things. And I would look to other people who were very spiritual and talked about their psychic abilities and all these things, and I didn't believe it. I just didn't believe it. And it really took me some time to work through all this, and I realized, after that, that's what I was doing. I was rebuilding my foundation, right? I was rebuilding my understanding of all these things from the ground up, because what I had to do is I had to discover them for myself, and I had to find them within me from the bare bottom of no belief in them whatsoever. And so, yeah, one day I realized that, like, all these people that were having these experiences couldn't be wrong. Like, they couldn't be wrong with their experiences. And so I wanted to validate their experiences. And I realized that the only way that I could do that, the only way that I could decide if these things really existed, if psychic abilities really existed, and all these things existed, all this psychic phenomenon, metaphysical phenomenon, that I would have to believe in it in order to experience it. And this actually reminds me a lot of the Indiana Jones movie. I think it was the third one, when he's going to get the Holy Grail, and hold on, I gotta get a sip of my broth here. And so essentially, he's at this precipice, right? This chasm, this cave, in this giant cave, right? And he has to make, quote, the leap of faith, right? And this is what this whole thing is like, right? And so in his journey, in his experience, he's standing there, and the chasm is so giant that he can't see any possible way to get across it at all. And the guy who is with him is like, you just have to jump. And he's like, there's no way I'm going to make it. And he's like, you have to have faith. You have to have faith, and you have to jump. And so, finally he pulls himself together and he jumps, right? And he opens his eyes, and he's in the middle of the chasm on a walkway that he didn't even know existed, because he couldn't see it from his vantage point. He couldn't see it from his perspective, right? And then he could easily walk across now, because now he could see the walkway and everything was fine, right? And so this is what it's like. This is what it's about. Um, the same thing with developing your psychic abilities and with all the psychic phenomena, metaphysical phenomena, is having that faith, that leap, taking that leap of faith, having that belief in your abilities and these things, that they exist and that you really have them, for them to manifest, for you to see them and hold witness to them. And so I did that, right? But I didn't know that's how it worked. Like, when I did it, I was just like, this is what they say, right? They say to make the leap of faith and to do these things, and so I'm going to do these things. And so I did. And it was interesting, because as soon as I did that, well, not like that moment, but shortly thereafter, I started seeing those things in my reality. Now, not big amounts, because, mind you, I'm rebuilding my foundation. So it started off small for me, but I find that for a lot of my clients, it's a huge shift. It's a huge shift, and it's a very fast shift, that their abilities really go from like 0 to 60 just in that leap of faith. But for me, I needed to rebuild everything slowly and carefully from the smallest minutia, because for me, my path was all about discovering that minutia, the smallest aspects of my psychic abilities, because I didn't know this at the time, but I was gearing up for being able to help teach people how to hone their own psychic abilities through my own experiences, because I learned how to do it. I learned how to see it in myself, in the smallest components, in the smallest aspects, and then making those aspects larger and larger, right? So anyway, again, back to belief and back to faith. It's this element that made the biggest difference, in the whole thing. Because if I had not believed in myself, if I had not believed in the potential of psychic abilities, and had I not taken that leap of faith and just acted as if it's real, as if these things really exist, then I wouldn't have seen that experience. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is acting as if. And it's like you can, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, how like you can go on the internet and you can find anything that supports your belief, right? Absolutely anything. Any perspective that you have, you can go on the internet and you're like, yep, this supports my perspective, so therefore it's real. Right. Well, it's kind of like that in a different way. So when you start really believing in yourself is when you really start seeing those things. Okay. And when you don't believe in yourself, you start seeing those things, right? So you're essentially seeing everything that you believe, right? It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist just because you don't believe in it. It just means that you're not going to see it until you believe in it. You have to believe before you see. And this is the frustrating thing too, because like we all want to see it to believe it, right? That's the whole see it to believe it thing, right? But no, it's not as easy as that. And that's so freaking frustrating, that you have to believe it to see it. You have to make that leap of faith to see it. And that's what's going to make the difference. So I'm encouraging you today. I really want you to think about this, okay? And I dare you to make that leap of faith. I dare you to leap off in that belief of these things are real, these things are possible, and not only are they real, but they are part of me. They are part of who I really am. And then start looking for those things in your life. I want you to start believing and looking for those things in your life and validating those things. Because when you're developing your psychic abilities, it's all about observing them in your life, observing how they manifest in you, okay? And then validating that, like seeing that, like, yeah, that's what that really is. That's a psychic ability. That's really happening. Validating that. And then taking action on the messages and the information, the things that you're getting. Like if you're doing those three things, like that is really going to skyrocket your abilities. All right. Now, I know that I've also talked about like psychic abilities in general and things like this. And I really want to ingrain in you that it's more than psychic abilities. And this word psychic really bothers me, because it makes it feel like it's special or unreachable or whatever. And I know I've said this before, if you've been listening before, but you are an energetic being, okay? You are an energetic being, and just like with your physical body, you have physical senses. You have an energetic body that has energetic senses, okay? And these are your psychic senses. These are your psychic abilities. And they are a part of who you are. I mean, imagine being like a physical being where you don't have senses, right? You're walking around the world and you don't have senses, right? I mean, it's the same thing with being an energetic being. I mean, imagine yourself, floating out there in the universe, if you, however you want to imagine this, right? As an energetic being, and you don't have the ability to communicate or interpret and receive energetic information. I mean, come on. So these are your energetic senses, and this word psychic just makes it seem so unreachable. And if you really just think of them as energetic senses, you realize that it is a part of you. It's a natural part of you. Okay. And so, yeah, I want you to really just understand that about yourself. I think this will really help you to integrate like that belief and that faith, because if you understand that these are your energetic senses and that you are an energetic being, that it'll be easier to make that leap of faith. Okay. So yeah, I want to challenge you today to do that. Make that leap of faith today. Well, okay, maybe not today, but try. All right. All right. Well, I know this was a short episode, but I hope that it has been helpful for you. And if it has, I really would love it if you would share this episode with other people so that other people could benefit as well. And yeah, please subscribe to my podcast. I would love that. Anyway, I hope that you have an awesome day. And I look forward to talking with you next week.